All right. So, thank you all for joining us talking about meeting your body's protein needs. So, Scott, let's not waste a second. Let's go ahead and dive right in on this topic. When we were talking about this in advance, man, there's you got a lot of great information to pass along. But to before we dive into more of the actionable stuff, talk about, why does protein matter? And give us like some specifics around how does it help us?
Yeah. So my goal essentially for tonight is to cover a little background on the importance of that protein plays in keeping us healthy and active, and also just provide you with a little bit of understanding and possibly some urgency to make or keep this as a priority since it is so important. Because really, as we get older, protein becomes even more important, not just for muscle mass, but also for strength, bone health. We'll go over that. And also just keeping us active and independent. So here are five ways that protein really does help us. Uh, Obviously, it builds and repairs muscle after workouts. I think everybody pretty much knows that, but it is very, very important. The second one is that it helps us maintain independence as we age by maintaining or improving strength. The older we get, obviously, as people kind of get into their 70s and even 80s, just power production and that natural loss of muscle tissue, sarcopenia, really starts to set in. And so, combating that with getting enough protein along with strength training really, really goes a long way in maintaining independence. Um, as far as diet and possibly fat loss goes, it really supports satiety. So it just helps keep you fuller for a longer period of time compared to if you were to only eat like pasta or a really carb heavy meal, you're probably going to be hungry within another hour or two. Whereas protein just really helps sustain you for a much longer period of time. And so for fat loss, that's massively beneficial if you're living in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time. The fourth way that protein helps is it supports healthy bones. So after the age of 50, bone breakdown starts to outpace bone formation, leading to bone loss. And so ensuring that you're getting an adequate intake of protein, along with calcium and vitamin D, really helps improve bone health. Um, and then the fifth way, some of you may have heard of this before. This may be totally new to some, but it actually helps increase energy expenditure. And there's essentially two ways that protein does this. And so the first one is that it helps maintain muscle mass as you age, which uh, actually keeps your metabolism higher long term as we age. And so muscle tissue is a lot more metabolically active, and having more muscle tissue means that you're going to be burning more calories per day doing the same level of activity compared to if you had less muscle mass. And so it's just going to help boost your metabolism. The second way it increases your energy expenditure is through the thermic effect of food, or TEF. And if you have not heard of this, basically every time you eat food, your body requires energy to break that food down, turn it into nutrients, absorb it, and really process it. So the thermic effect of food varies between proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And protein has substantially higher uh, thermic effect of food compared to carbohydrates and fat. So, for example, about 20 to 30% of the calories you consume uh, when you eat protein, that's going to be burned by your body, just breaking the protein down, trying to turn it into fuel. So, for example, compared to carbohydrates, you're only looking at 5 or 10%, and then fat is much, much lower at 0 to 3%. So basically, if you're eating 100 calories of protein, your body may spend 20 to 30 of those calories just breaking it down, trying to turn it into fuel. And so you can actually get away with eating a little bit more protein compared to a diet much higher in carbohydrates and fat. Um, kind of moving along, as far as how much protein we need, that's a really, really common question that we get. Um, the old recommendation that even I learned in school, and there's a lot more really cool research that's come out in the last few years or so, and it's still coming out. But the old recommendation was zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram. This is outdated and it's massively a lot lower than pretty much anybody needs, but especially the aging individual getting into their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and people who are strength training, really of any age. Um, the recommendation of zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram is pretty much the minimum amount needed to avoid malnutrition, not the minimum amount needed to really thrive and continue getting stronger and building new muscle mass to help increase metabolism and support your lifestyle. Um, a much better recommendation, though, for active individuals and people in their 50s, 60s, 70s is about 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. Um, this basically means you should be doubling up compared to the old recommendation. It may sound a little bit on the high end for some, and it is probably more than the average person is definitely getting unless they're really placing a huge emphasis on getting enough protein. But a couple examples of these general guidelines. So for, let's say, a man or woman in their 40s to 60s or so, about 150 pounds or 68 kilos. That's a little over 100 grams a day. So it comes out to 108 grams of protein per day. For a 200-pound individual or 91 kilos, you're looking at about 145 grams a day. That recommendation, though, the 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram, is compared to according to some of the research that's come out very recently, that even is not on the low end, but kind of like average. There's recommendations that support going up to 2.2, which would be about a gram per pound. Um, does everybody need that much? No. Are you going to do any harm if you do get that much or overconsume on protein? No, not unless you already have some sort of underlying medical condition. Um, but it's for most people, you're not going to be able to consume too much. Most people struggle just getting the bare minimum, and so there should really be no concern with getting too much protein. Um,
No.
so another one
Let's
more,
let's back up there because you shared some like awesome nuggets
yeah,
there that I want to make sure people caught on to. The first one, and I remember first hearing about this, the thermic effect of food. It was like, whoa, wait a second, like this could be extremely powerful. So when you're talking about the thermic effect of food, it really kind of debunks the idea that like a calorie is a calorie or all calories are equal. You're shared that just to clarify for folks, if you eat 100 calories of protein, you're actually only really like there's really only about 70 to 80 calories like net that you're digesting because your body's using 20 to 30 of them, 20 to 30% of your calories just breaking down that food, correct?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Versus you said with carbs, did you say 10 roughly?
Yeah,
Uh
it's roughly 10, and then fat
okay.
was
And
like
then fats,
3.
yeah, three. So you eat 100 calories of protein, you're actually digesting, 75, we'll say 75, split the difference. You eat 100 calories of carbs, you're digesting 90. You eat 100 calories of fat, you're digesting 97 calories. So just that alone, when you think about if you're doing that, every single day with a couple hundred calories, like, man, that's a massive shift on top of everything else that you mentioned in the very beginning uh, as far as all the benefits to protein. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was just in case anyone's math's not their strong suit, if you want to know the kilograms to pounds, take your body weight in pounds, divide by 2.2. So that would let you know, like I said, body weight, divide by 2.2. That will give you I think like a 200-pound male is 200-pound person. I think it's like 92, 93 kilograms. But the recommendation would be you're suggesting 1.2 to 1.6 per kilogram. And you're saying that you could even go up higher than that in generally, unless there's an existing medical condition. Um, totally fine, no issues whatsoever. Nice.
Yeah. And so it comes out to zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. But yeah, the 1.2 to 1.6. And then another really good method, if you are using the InBody in the gym, is also by going by the lean body mass number at the very top of the InBody report. You can just go 1 to 1. So whatever that number is for the lean body mass, it's roughly should be about enough. You could also go up to like 1.2 grams per pound of lean body mass from the InBody report would be another good recommendation, depending on how much muscle mass you have. Um, I don't think though you have to be super specific with this. The most important thing at the end of the day is that you're in a positive nitrogen balance. So basically, you're just consuming enough protein to support all your metabolic processes, recover from the workouts, and you're not constantly sore. The in body isn't showing that the muscle mass is decreasing month after month. And as long as you're not seeing those things, you're probably fine. So there's a lot of numbers, but you can also kind of do it intuitively. As long as you feel like you're still seeing good progress, strength is increasing, you're probably okay.
Nice. I like it. All right. How do people know if they're meeting their needs? Break that down a little bit for us. Because that's obviously that's a question we get almost every single day. So, how would you go about, how would you think about that?
Yeah. Um, so one could use an app like MyFitnessPal and just simply track it. Track it to the best of your ability, maybe get a food scale, measuring cups, and just trying to do the best you can to track it for a few days just to get a rough average and comparing that number with some of the recommendations that we just discussed. But in general, I would just ask yourself these four questions. So, do I eat a high quality protein source at each meal? Um, Really focusing on breakfast since this is a time that most people struggle with, and then avoiding naked carbs. So, for example, a breakfast that's just a bagel, um, just pasta for dinner, no veggies, no protein source, even if there might be like a little bit of protein, but it isn't anything substantial. Or another example would be just having a granola bar or just a banana for a snack. Not that those things are bad, but since protein is so important and most people are only eating like on a good day, like 3 to 5 times a day, meals and snacks combined, you really just need to make sure that you're getting a good amount of protein each time you do eat. Otherwise, the total intake for the day is not going to land where you want it to be. So that's the first question is just asking yourself, do I eat a high quality protein source at each meal? The second question I would ask myself is, am I getting 25 to 35 roughly grams at a time and not just those small amounts we talked about kind of spread throughout the day? So if you're having, again, that example of like a granola bar, if you're only getting 5 grams here, maybe 10 grams there, ultimately you're going to fall well short of the recommended amount. The third question I would ask is, do I feel satisfied after meals, or am I getting hungry pretty quickly after I eat? So, since protein is more satiating, it's more filling than especially like uh, simple carbs and really carb heavy meals, stuff like that. You should feel satisfied after meals for at least a few hours. You shouldn't necessarily like feel full. Um, but a small level of hunger is totally normal and it's to be expected if you're living in a caloric deficit, if fat loss is your goal. But it shouldn't be overwhelming. But you should at least for a couple hours after you eat feel pretty good. The fourth question that I would ask is, am I recovering from my workouts? So paying attention to recovery, soreness. Some soreness is totally normal, especially in the beginning, the first really up to like 6 months or so, depending on you know, the kind of weight you're moving and your activity level, what you're doing outside of the gym. But if it is a constant theme where you're just always kind of dragging, coming into the gym and everything's stiff and sore, could be a sign that you're just not getting enough protein.
Nice. That's great stuff. To recap that, protein at every meal, the 25 to 35 grams. Are you satisfied? Are you feeling full? And then specific to the workouts, are you recovering after? Again, some soreness, definitely reasonable. But if you just feel like you're never really recovering, that might be something to consider. So that's awesome recommendations. So when you mentioned like the 25 to 35 grams, let's kind of talk about that a little bit. How much protein is in different foods?
Yeah. So um, a lot of this talk tonight is hopefully educational and a little bit of tactical stuff, but it's kind of hard to actually like share in this format recipes, good like tips and specific food sources. So if anyone's interested, I can share a lot more detail as far as actual meal options and stuff like that. But as far as protein sources, um, for chicken breasts, probably the most common example, you're looking at about 9 ounces or 9 grams per ounce of chicken breast. So take, for example, a 3 ounce portion, roughly the size of like a small palmful of chicken. You're looking at about 26 grams of protein there. Salmon, another really good source, between 6 and 7 grams per ounce. Some of the fat that is in the salmon kind of displaces the protein per ounce, if that makes sense. Greek yogurt is awesome. It's a really, really good, like the yogurt cups is a really good grab and go, kind of quick in the morning or before a workout if you're heading out the door. Really good option. But per cup, you're looking at about 18 grams. Cottage cheese, also really good. A little bit higher at 24 grams per cup. Um, Eggs are fantastic. You're looking at 6 grams per egg. Lentils, also really good source of fiber as well. But they are, as far as plant-based sources go, they're really high at 18 grams per cup. Let's take that compared to like rice, for example, it's like one or two. So it's a really, really good plant source of protein. And then a really simple one is the protein shake. Depending on the brand and the size of the scoop, you're looking at between 20 and 25 grams for a protein shake. And you can mix that up with pretty much any kind of liquid water. You can go with any kind of milk of your choice, whether that's like an oat milk or cow milk, soy milk, anything, um, which may even boost that up into the like 30 gram per scoop range once it's actually blended up. But that's a really good option, especially for breakfast. If you're just someone who's not really that hungry and you don't tend to eat breakfast, getting protein in the morning is super, super important.
Yeah, no, great suggestions. I love the protein shake for breakfast. Works for a lot of our clients because a lot of people, myself included, not really that hungry in the morning. So me, I want to get to work. I want to get my day started. So the protein shake for breakfast, great idea. You mentioned a lot of good stuff there. We got a quick question in the chat. That kind of segues into our next portion here. But is there harm from getting a lot of your protein during the evening? So how would you, again, I know this kind of, we're going to touch on a little bit on timing next, but any initial thoughts you want to share on that as far as like protein timing, or like, is it okay if the majority of it's later in the day? What would you think about that?
Yeah. So timing does matter, but the thing that matters even more than timing is that you're getting enough total over like a 24-hour span. And so being in a positive nitrogen balance in your body, basically your body at all times is going through metabolic processes and it's breaking things down and it's building things and getting enough protein to make sure that you're and a good nitrogen, positive nitrogen balance is the most important thing. So just getting enough throughout the day. Um, Timing does matter though. I would say try to spread it out as best you can. As far as more specifically with the timing, making sure that you're getting some before you work out and then after you work out is probably going to be even more important. And so, yes, I would try to spread it out. The drawback to only getting it in later in the day, I know I talk to a lot of people who, I don't really eat breakfast, might have like a little snack. I don't really eat lunch, and then I just eat a big dinner. And really the problem with that is you're limiting your opportunities to get protein sources in. And so even if your dinner is, let's say, 50 grams of protein, which is a really substantial amount at one time, um, you're still going to fall short of your total daily needs if you're really saving like 90% of it for dinner, if that makes sense.
Mhm. No, that definitely makes sense. So, you want get the protein in when you can, but you mentioned, around the workouts, definitely timing really matters then, specifically. The only thought I would add to that is that I know from personal experience, experiment over the last several years, and then as I've kind of done some digging into it and worked with clients, with the eating just in general, and this isn't really specific to this topic, but just in general, the more you eat later in the evening, especially as it gets closer to bed, I've noticed my the quality of my sleep drops significantly. And so one thing to consider might be protein aside, but just I would maybe play around with it and see if you move some of those evening calories up a little bit. If you don't notice that you're feeling better rested because the quality of your sleep's going up. So again, just food for thought. That isn't really related to protein, but just calories in general. That's something kind of on this topic of calories in the evening. I know that if I'm on the couch eating late at night, it's not going to be a good night's sleep. So, not that I would ever do that though. But moving right along, Scott, let's talk about like just some, if you had to pick, let's just say like your top five tips, like for success. Like, okay, if we had to really, we've covered a lot so far, but what are like the five things that if you're like, these are the thing, this is where to start, or where to, the things that are probably the most going to give you the most bang for your buck. What would you say to that?
Yeah. So, uh, like the question kind of alluded to, first I would say front load your protein. So breakfast, first thing in the morning, that's where most people struggle. Either not really eating anything, which isn't that great, or just eating really carb heavy options that are just kind of quick grab and go. So I would basically say, even if you're one of those people that typically doesn't ever eat breakfast and you may not even really be hungry in the morning, I would still at least do a protein shake. A good option there too is you can um, blend up your protein shake. Again, it doesn't have to be water. You can mix it with any kind of milk option that you like, and then just mix some coffee with it once it's actually mixed up. If you try to go protein powder straight in the coffee, if it's hot, it's probably just going to clump up and not be that great. But if you mix it first and then add the coffee, it's pretty much like a protein latte. And that's a good option. You can just have it in the car or take it on your way to work or whatever. So front load your protein first and then try to spread it out as best you can. So again, the most important thing is that you're getting enough throughout the day. But once you've achieved that, it is better if you try to spread it out. So think like three meals, one to two snacks between the meals, if possible. And then pre and post workout would be the third one. Shoot for roughly 15 grams before you work out, and then up to about 30 grams of protein right after you work out. Sooner the better after you work out. And that's the benefit of protein shakes. They're not a necessity, but they are super convenient. Sooner the better, definitely within like 45 minutes to an hour after leaving the gym. So if you have to go home, shower, actually start prepping and cooking and doing all that kind of stuff, I would still definitely have a protein shake. Another common scenario would be like going out to eat. So if you're working out in the evening, you have to go home, you have to shower, then maybe you're meeting some friends at a restaurant or bar or whatever, and you're going to grab food there. By the time you actually get cleaned up, drive there, wait for a table, do all that kind of stuff, it's going to be at least 90 minutes. And so even if you're leaving the gym, going to have dinner, in that scenario, I would still have a protein shake. The fourth tip would be using convenience foods. So, not all of these options have to be perfectly balanced meals, sitting down with a plate, knife, fork. That's not realistic. So, rely on things like pre-cooked chicken, rotisserie chicken, even at like Costco, Schnucks, Sam's, like all those kind of places, you can actually get the rotisserie chicken meat. They pull it for you. It's like vacuum sealed and like I don't know if it's like 1 pound, 2 pound kind of thing. It's already cooked. It's pulled. There's no skin, no bones, nothing. You can just open that up, warm it if you want to. You don't even have to. You can throw it into salads or whatever. So use those things to your advantage. Tuna packets, they're cheap, quick, convenient. I mentioned yogurt cups, string cheese is really good. You're looking at about 6 grams of protein uh, per like packet of string cheese. It's the same as an egg. You get two of those paired with the yogurt, and you're looking at over 20 grams of protein. Um, the fifth tip, I kind of already mentioned this one, but just track it. Track your intake using MyFitnessPal or another app if you have a good one that you've liked. MyFitnessPal does have a free option. It's not as user friendly as the option that you have to pay for. But if you're just going to do it for a week, I wouldn't bother paying for it. But just track it. Do it for, a week. If you find it really annoying or possibly stressful, do it for like 3 days and just get a rough idea of approximately how much you're consuming on average, and then compare that to that 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram recommendation or the zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.7 grams per pound recommendation and just see where you fall. And then if you need to, then that following week, just try to increase it a little bit, just a little bit larger serving of like chicken or an extra yogurt, maybe throw in a protein shake if you're not doing that currently. But just find some way to add like 10 to 15 grams throughout the day.
Nice. Those are great recommendations. Love it. Things that tracking for a week. I think everyone hates the idea of tracking their nutrition, myself included. However, I love, when you're saying like just do it for just 1 week, 1 week. Let's at least ensure we're getting the amount of protein that we think we're getting in. So that's great. And the convenience foods, it's the idea of like, progress, not perfection. So don't worry about, everything being chicken and broccoli perfectly portioned every meal. It's probably not realistic. So a lot of other good stuff as well. Just in the interest of time, like talking about mistakes, just give us like what are your top like two or three, just top two or three mistakes that you see people making when it comes to protein.
Yeah. Um, so I would say first, just skipping meals flat out, just not eating breakfast or not eating lunch or leaving the gym in the evening and you're just not really that hungry. And, I'm not that hungry. I'll be fine. Just not eating. Just don't skip meals. It's another opportunity. View it as a positive thing. It's another opportunity to get protein in that's going to help make you stronger, hopefully build some muscle mass, and just support your active lifestyle and keep you healthy long term. The other one would be underestimating your protein needs. And I think many people do this, and it depends on who you talk to with a lot of these protein recommendations. A lot of people still do go by that zero point 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram. Um, for some people that are very sedentary, not doing a whole lot, they're not trying to lose weight, they're not working out, maybe that's enough. But for our audience and the people that are coming into the gym, it's really not even close to enough. Um, the other one would be probably trying to make too large of a jump. So let's say, for example, if you're getting 40 or 50 grams of protein per day and you go to bed tonight, you're like, man, I'm going to start eating more protein. tomorrow I'm going to shoot for 150 grams. That's probably not realistic either. And so it's too big of a jump. So what I would do is just try to take it like 10 to 15 grams per week and just slowly work your way up there so that hopefully your habits and your meals and everything are uh, more realistic and sustainable long term and not just a really short lived, really high amount for like 1 month only, and then you just get sick of it. So take it slow and just work your way up there.
Nice. Now, Scott, before we wrap it up, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Got a question in the chat, and if we need to, we'll Buck. If we need to, we'll have to follow up with you on this. So, Buck's question was on white mulberry leaf extract to block carbs. Um, uh, his doctor started a study around that. Do you have any thoughts or any knowledge on this? Or, if not, no pressure. We can get back to Buck. But is this something you're familiar with? Because I'm not.
I'm actually not. I have heard it, but I haven't actually like seen any research or done any reading on it. But I will, and if you share his email address, I'm happy to reach out to him.
Got it. Well, there's your answer, Buck. TBD. We'll have to get back to you on that, but I'll pass along your info and Scott will get in touch. To kind of put this all together, to wrap things up real quick, what would you, if you wanted to leave people with a few action steps, just like, hey, from here, like, let's put this into practice, next week. What do you got for them?
Yeah. So it all starts with estimating your needs. Based on that recommendation that we talked about, just do some quick math, figure out a rough ballpark of about how much protein you should be shooting for per day. Again, you can also use the InBody machine, figure out your lean body mass, and then 1 gram per pound of the lean body mass up to like 1.2. That'll get you within that ballpark also. Second one would be aiming for at least 25 to 30 grams, 25 to 35 grams of protein per meal. Again, if you're only eating 3 meals and a snack or two, um, and those meals only have like, let's say 10 grams of protein, you're going to fall well short of what you actually need. The third one would be eating a protein-rich snack between meals. So if you're, let's say, going more than 4 hours in between meals, so if you're eating breakfast really early in the morning and then not eating until noon and then not having dinner until like 5 or 6 p.m. or even later, definitely try to get some protein in like mid-morning and then mid-afternoon. So just think about never going more than like 4 hours without having at least some meal that has a good amount of protein in. And that's where protein shakes, some of those convenience options we talked about, protein bars are just really, really easy and convenient. The fourth one would be trying a new recipe. So try to look up some recipes. I'm happy to share some too. Look up some new high protein recipes that you can try out this week. So your homework assignment is first figuring out, again, your protein needs. And then this weekend, hit the grocery store, find a new recipe that you think you'll actually enjoy and kind of get excited about making and make enough so that you have leftovers. So that'll set you up for maybe lunch the next day or dinners for a couple of nights just to make it a little bit easier. And then just try some new stuff. Make it exciting. It doesn't have to be boring.
It's great stuff. Excellent action items there. I love that. Just to kind of like put a bow on it. So, Scott, thank you so much. This is amazing information. Everyone, just so you know, you will get the recordings tomorrow.